Lorraine Hurley has been teaching cooking classes to children and to adults practically her whole adult life. Today, she's going to show us an easy way to make a single crust pie.
Good afternoon. We're going to make a plain, ordinary, single crust pie today. I'm going to show you the steps and what things you do. The first and most important thing is to read the recipe and read it well so you understand your ingredients and you use them appropriately. This particular recipe is called a single crust pie, plain pastry, 1½ cups of sifted all-purpose flour, and a ½ teaspoon of salt. And I did use the plain, ordinary, iodized salt. A ½ cup of shortening, and in this case I measured off the shortening, and the shortening that I'm using, of course, is all vegetable shortening made by Crisco. And the last thing are 4 to 5 tablespoons of cold water. So what I did is I put cold water in the Sterling cup, and I put it in the refrigerator with an ice cube in it to make sure that I have very, very cold water for working. So the first thing was to sift flour and salt, which I have done already, and then to put in the shortening. Another thing that you might think of as you're working is put the ingredients that you are going to use to the right of you and put them to the left of you once they're used. So to the salt and to the flour, we're going to add the shortening. Now we can do this several ways. In my particular case today, I'm going to be putting small pieces of shortening in, and then we're going to make sure that they're in small lumps almost, because you want it evenly distributed as you're putting it in with the flour. Come in and start cutting it to make sure that everything is going to be very evenly distributed and mixed. And you will eventually get little clumps, almost like little balls. Basic. My hands are cold because I made sure I rinsed them with cold water before I started. And cold is your friend when you're making pie. So be sure to use everything cold. There. So, and as I said to you, when you're finished with something, you automatically put it aside. Okay? So now we'll just mix this together a bit. Okay? They call this cutting, shortening into the flour. That's what they call it, cutting. So that's exactly what I'm doing. And you see what I'm doing to the bowl? My left hand is occupied and it's helping it turn around. So it's giving it that little extra turn that I need to make sure that everything is going to be very evenly distributed. The trick to it is now to add the cold water. First you sprinkle in cold water. So now we're going to work with the ice cold water. So we'll start with the first tablespoon. And when I say sprinkle, it's almost, that's the way I do it. Okay? Now this is when you mix and work as quickly as you can. Okay? Make sure it's evenly right through the flour. Okay, 1. Now we do 2. Okay. Do it again several times. You can see the change taking place. But you see what I mean about evenly? Because you see what you have over here? You have crumbs. And you don't want to have crumbs. You don't want to have a pie that has crumbs, because then they'll never stick together. Okay, so now we're going to do our 4th tablespoon and see what we have then. You can also do this with a fork, which sometimes I do. Single. Okay. Cold hands, remember? And then I'm going to take it out and form it into a bowl. Here we go. Isn't this fun, huh? So what we have here is all the dough. Now remember what I said about the crumbs? See, sometimes you can get that, but you can also just put it in. But a lot of people save those crumbs and use it. When you have an apple crumb pie, they're very good to use. Okay. So what do we have here now? We have a nice sized ball. Very good. Okay. Cold hands, cold utensils, cold dish, cold water. I can't emphasize this enough. Oh, but you could also put this in the refrigerator. You can put it in there for, maybe 10-15 minutes, and it would be nice and cold. Okay. Always powder your your rolling pin also, okay? And then we'll give it a try and see what we have here, okay? Gentle, 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 gentle. To the right, to the left, gentle, because if you go too hard, it might even not want to roll. And that's what I keep doing. If you notice, I'm constantly putting some more flour on so nothing will stick. Okay, so you see what's happening? You have a nice piece of single crust here. Okay. Now, depending on the size of your dish, you have different ways you can measure this. Don't worry about the jagged edges. Try to make sure that the consistency is around all the time. And I'm not pressing real hard if you notice. Now, how do you measure and know that you have the right size? Well, you could easily do this. And then always make sure that you have a little extra around the edge so that you're going to have enough that's going to around the sides of it. So now here we have a crust. I usually take it up this way. Don't worry about the powder. It's going to be okay. Okay? And this dish could have very, very easily been also put into the refrigerator and gotten cold. And when they say flute, do you know what flute means? You would say they take it, and you'll see. Now this one came down a little bit, so I'm going to need to do a little patch, but that's good. I'm glad it happened because then I can teach you a little bit about patching. Don't get afraid and say that it's not perfect. Now, one of the things I did learn, there are some tricks to cutting off the edge, and this is one of the tricks, is just roll your rolling pin all around, and it's like a cutter. See? It cuts it right off, and you could do that too if you want, if you decide to go that route. Okay, this is what you call fluting. Just turn the fork upside down and just go around in a circle like this. Now some, and especially my experienced parent in my family, would always do it this way. 2 fingers and press, 2 fingers and press, 2 fingers and press.
Knowing a few easy tricks can make a beautiful pie crust result. One like this, flaky, light, and sun-tanned.